It's me, Jamie.
I'm not good with names.
Celeste! I trained you. We share a locker.
Nooseman! He gets 2 name your price tools.
It's 2? I literally coined the phrase, we give you coverage options based on your budget. That's me.
Jamie! Yeah. You're back from Italy! Mwah! Mwah! Ciao, Bella.
See, that's funny. I thought you traded options.
I'm not really a Wall Street guy.
What's the hesitation?
I don't know, it just feels too complicated, you know?
You know, at TD Ameritrade, we can walk you through your options trade step by step until you're comfortable.
I could be up for that.
Step-by-step options trading support from TD Ameritrade.
You hope nobody knows it's you, but you know it's you. So know this. The activated charcoal and Charco caps adsorbs gas for fast gas relief without passing the gas. Charco caps. Put less boom in the room.
Would you like to win the Publishers Clearinghouse $5,000 a week forever prize? $5,000 a week for your life. Then after that, someone you choose gets $5,000 a week for their life. Enter at PCH.com and February 23rd, win forever.
Get the facts first.
It matters who wrote wrong.
Get to the truth.
Do you have the proof?
Yes.
Can I have it?
No. Beyond the spin.
Your own logic doesn't work here.
Holding their feet to the fire. Cuomo Prime Time starts Tuesday at 9.
Closed captioning brought to you by OnlyMeso.com.
We offer a free book on mesothelioma. Call for the free book and receive so much more. Call 1-800-831-3700.
I've been a hunter my whole life. People are employed because we're hunting.
How much for that sucker? 35,000?
People are confused how hunting and conservation go together.
Give me one animal that's gone extinct while farmers were breeding it and making money out of it. There's not one.
Trophy premieres Sunday, January 14th at 9.
Federal authorities are actively investigating the Clinton Foundation, looking into whether donors were promised special access to Hillary Clinton while she was Secretary of State. A U.S. official confirms the investigation to CNN. Laura Jarrett joins us now with more on that. So what have you learned about this?
Well, Anderson, this is a pretty serious legal development. That U.S. official tells me that the FBI and federal prosecutors down in Little Rock, Arkansas, are actively looking into whether donations to the Clinton Foundation were made in exchange for some type of political favors while Clinton was Secretary of State, and whether tax-exempt funds were misused in any way. But this inquiry isn't entirely new. CNN reported back in 2016 that FBI agents in different field offices had opened preliminary inquiries into whether there had been any improper dealings with donors, but they didn't get very far. The inquiries fizzled out before Election Day, as we reported, but the Justice Department did agree that FBI agents could move forward if and when more evidence emerged down the line. Well, something has now changed, and there is an active probe, Anderson.
And you're saying the investigation is being led out of the FBI's field office in Little Rock, Arkansas. Do we know why there?
It's one of the more curious parts of this story. I have to tell you, we know that there's a Clinton Foundation office in Little Rock, and we've reported that FBI agents in Arkansas were certainly part of that original group that I mentioned doing the inquiries back in 2016. But there were also probes in New York and elsewhere. So what we're digging into now is why Arkansas won out on this legal jump ball, so to speak.
And what have Hillary Clinton or the Clinton Foundation said in response?
Well, the Clinton camp pretty swiftly dismissed these allegations, calling this a politically motivated sham. And a spokesperson for the foundation told us that, look, time to time, the Clinton Foundation has been subjected to political motivated allegations, and time after time, these allegations have been proven false, he said. But we've also already seen today some legal experts raising potential statute of limitations challenges that would essentially serve as a bar to a successful prosecution in this type of criminal case against the foundation, which is certainly always a routine issue for the defense team to look at. But we're pretty far from that stage right now, Anderson.
All right, Laura Jarrett, thanks very much. Coming up, the latest on another investigation, one that has Washington in its grips with no signs of slowing down. New reporting on the Russia investigation, the president, the attorney general, and his recusal, and update also from the White House next.
It's time for Sleep Number's lowest prices of the season on the only bed that adjusts on both sides to your ideal comfort. Your Sleep Number setting. And snoring? Does your bed do that? It's the lowest prices of the season on the Queen C4 mattress with adjustable comfort on both sides. Now $11.99, save $400. End soon. Visit sleepnumber.com for a store near you.
Every bottle of Palm Wonderful is packed with the antioxidants in pure pomegranate juice. Relentlessly ravenous, free radical annihilating antioxidants. Palm Wonderful. Crazy healthy.
Don't wait until February. Walk into a Jackson Hewitt day or night and you could get up to $3,200. So why wait? You could get up to $3,200 with a no-fee refund advance. Go to Jackson Hewitt today.
Carrie, as a recruiter, you've redefined success at this company. With Paycor, you brought us better processes and a smarter way to hire. And looking around, I guess it worked. So thank you for improving the lives of each person you've hired, including me.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
You're a rich girl and you're gone too far, 'cause you know it don't matter anyway. You can rely on the old man's money. You can rely on the old man's money.
I'm a soldier in the People's Army.
The local wine shop, a place where people go to...
Cuomo Prime Time starts Tuesday at 9, only on CNN.
Well, even as Michael Wolff's White House tell-all flies off the shelves, and even as the president rages against it, there's more breaking news in the Russia story. It takes our reporting today on presidential efforts to keep Attorney General Jeff Sessions from recusing himself. Two big steps beyond, as in two more people involved. A senior administration official telling CNN, Jim Acosta, that there were two other high-level officials doing the arm twisting. Quote, "I think it's fair to call it pressure," the official said about White House conversations with Sessions and top Sessions aides about the matter. Jeff Zeleny joins us now with more. So what's reaction from the White House to the news of the efforts to stop the Sessions recusal?
Anderson, the White House has not commented about this at all. I talked to Ty Cobb. He's one of the president's lawyers here, and he said, look, I respectfully decline to comment about the specifics of that. One of the reasons here is that now we are talking about potentially obstruction of justice. This has gone from just, kind of a political criticism to the potential of obstruction of justice here. So no one wants to discuss this publicly, but there's no question. Thinking back to those days last spring, when Jeff Sessions recused himself, I remember I was with President Trump. He was in Norfolk, Virginia on a military boat. He was the Gerald Ford. He was touring it. He got this word, was very upset. As we learned more about it, it was clear at that moment that he was surprised by this, and officials tried to get Jeff Sessions to stop this. So now coming full circle about a year later, it's clear here that that was a key moment here. The president so furious about Jeff Sessions, who he thought was an ally, recusing himself. But of course, Jeff Sessions, a longtime senator from Alabama, recused himself under the advice of the Justice Department there, who said he was simply too close to this. So, Anderson, all this coming full circle.
And, Jeff, the meeting the president's holding with members of Congress and other cabinet secretaries up at Camp David this weekend, I understand Attorney General Sessions was not invited. Do we know why?
He wasn't. As we speak right now, President Trump and leaders from the House and Senate, Speaker Paul Ryan, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and others are meeting at Camp David, having a dinner right now. Other cabinet members there as well. Jeff Sessions, Attorney General, not there. The White House says, look, don't read anything into that. But the Defense Secretary is there. The Secretary of State is there. The Education Secretary is there. They say it's about the 2018 agenda, and the Attorney General is not necessarily part of that. Perhaps. But the reality here is, Anderson, the bottom line tonight, the president still has not given up his anger at his Attorney General Jeff Sessions for that decision nearly a year ago to recuse himself from this investigation, which of course touched off all these events, which are still unfolding.
Yeah,
Anderson.
Jeff Stelling, I appreciate that. Things like beauty being in the eye of the beholder, obstruction of justice is in the eyes and judgment of the prosecutor, which means we have a debate in legal circles, especially Washington legal circles. Joining us is Richard Painter, former White House ethics czar in the George W. Bush administration. He currently teaches law at the University of Minnesota. Also, former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli. So, Professor Painter, how much does it change things, in your opinion, now that, according to CNN's reporting, it wasn't just the White House counsel who was urging Sessions not to recuse himself? Does it rise to obstruction of justice in your mind?
Well, it does. Now, whether this rises to the level of the type of obstruction of justice that could be criminally prosecuted and who would be prosecuted for it, that remains to be seen. And Robert Mueller will presumably make those determinations. But this is clearly a situation where the White House, under the leadership of President Donald Trump, is engaged in obstruction of justice with respect to the Russia investigation, firing James Comey, drafting a false statement for Donald Trump Jr., who was a material witness in the Russia investigation, trying to force out Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, so they can in turn fire Robert Mueller. These are repeated instances of obstruction of the Russia investigation. I'm shocked that the White House counsel would get himself involved in this type of effort to obstruct justice.
Ken, do you see that?
That's clearly what's going on.
No, it's not clearly what's going on, and there was no effort to oust Jeff Sessions. He offered his resignation, and it wasn't accepted. So, and back before all of the litany of items that Mr. Painter referenced was the recusal by Jeff Sessions. And if you think about the recusal regulation, because that's what the special counsel is appointed under a regulation of the Justice Department, the Attorney General's recusal was far broader than that regulation calls for. Far broader, under any reading of it at all, under any circumstances. And it's certainly understandable that the White House would be aghast at how the Attorney General went about that and the scope of what he was doing.
That's
and
just
of course,
wrong.
The president
That's
wasn't.
wrong. The ethics rules for lawyers. Think about it.
The president was done for. Excuse me a minute. The president, of course, is known to be upset about the recusal in the first place. But look, this is on the front side of all the kinds of litany of things that you just heard about. And at the same time, as I said, it went way beyond, from the Attorney General's perspective, way beyond the recusal called for under the regulation.
That's just wrong.
Read
that
the regulation.
Is wrong. That is not the reading of the regulation.
Read it.
And the ethics rules for lawyers, Rule 1.7 for lawyers' conflicts of interest. He cannot investigate a campaign in which he was a material part of that campaign. He cannot do it under the ethics rules for lawyers or under the ethics regulations. Open and shut. He could not.
There are three types.
In
there are three types of
investigations
at the Department of Justice.
So, Ken, why are you saying it's too broad?
There are three types of justice. There are three types of investigations at the Department of Justice. Criminal and civil are what people think of most of course. But the first thrust and the primary thrust of the Russia investigation was the third one at the Department of Justice, and that's counterintelligence. Look, this is a Russian meddling of one form or another, or at least an attempt, in American affairs. And that is a counterintelligence investigation first and foremost. The regulation that governs recusal does not touch that. Does not touch that.
It's criminal.
And that's where this whole thing began. That's where this whole thing began. And the Attorney General recused himself way beyond merely criminal investigation. He took all of the items off the table at the Department of Justice, including those not addressed by the regulation. So there are very good reasons for the White House counsel in the role of counsel to the president to call up the Attorney General and question what he was doing and why, and why
but Ken,
the scope
I mean, this is
was
the president
so broad.
who believes that the job of the Attorney General is to protect him, it seems like. I mean, is that the job
well,
of the
that's your
Attorney General?
position, Anderson. I mean, you have long held that position, Anderson, and I would think that most White House counsel certainly think it's their job to protect the president. The Attorney General's job is to execute
Wait, is the White House
law
counsel's job to
faithfully.
protect the president or to protect the presidency, the office of the president? My understanding is Don McGahn doesn't work for Donald Trump Jr. It's for the office of the president.
An excellent distinction. An excellent distinction. The presidency, the office of the president. He serves the president in his official capacity. Period, and that's it. That is it. The Attorney General has an unusual role as a cabinet member in that, unlike the other cabinet members, the Attorney General has independent legal decision-making authority, and that's part of what we've talked about here. The Attorney General also has, like all the other cabinet secretaries, policy implementation and some political, meaning dealing with Capitol Hill in particular, responsibilities that genuinely are not independent. They do fall under the direct authority appropriately of the president, just like all the other cabinet secretaries. So the piece we're talking about with Attorney General Sessions is that independent legal authority under the Attorney General's office that doesn't exist under any cabinet secretariat. That's it.
So, Professor Painter, was it appropriate for the President of the United States to not only tell Don McGahn to try to get Jeff Sessions to not recuse himself, but also other senior members of the White House?
Absolutely not. And there's not a single authority out there that's reputable that I have heard say that Attorney General Sessions was not required to recuse himself from the investigation of Russian interference in the election when he worked for the campaign. He was required to under the lawyers' ethics rules and the government ethics rules. It's an open and shut case. And for the White House counsel or anyone else in the White House to pressure the Attorney General to violate the law and to violate his ethical obligations as a lawyer is just flat out wrong. Now, whether it was criminal obstruction of justice or not is for Robert Mueller to determine. And I'm not going to opine on that. But it is obstruction of justice. And it is just flat out wrong for anyone to argue that the Attorney General could somehow supervise an investigation of a political campaign in which he had a very important role when that campaign was accused of collaborating with the Russians. We'll find out whether or not they collaborated with the Russians and whether or not it was criminal. But the Attorney General had no business being involved in that investigation, and he did the right thing by recusing.
We're going to
Anderson,
go ahead, Ken, and then
let's keep in mind that this obviously Trump won the race, but there are also the Russian involvement we've traced now to Ferguson, to the Jill Stein campaign. This is not just about the Trump campaign. So when you look at the other aspects of what the Department of Justice is responsible for, at least those other areas, Professor Painter's objections really fall away. I appreciate what he has to say in the criminal context, and explicitly that, which is what the regulation related to special counsel addresses, but not in the other areas of responsibility of the Department of Justice.
Investigating Jill Stein? I mean, this is ridiculous. This is just laughable. This whole thing is
No, you are twisting my words, Professor, and you're very good at that.
Come on.
But look, this isn't an investigation of Jill Stein. It's an investigation of Russia. It is an investigation of Russia. I'm worried about Russia. You worry about Jill Stein. And the point is that Russia's activities span across more than just the Trump campaign and attempts to influence the American electorate through the Trump campaign. There's also through Stein and through news manipulation, for instance, around Ferguson.
And who collaborated with them, and they are the people being investigated, and Attorney General Sessions did the right thing by recusing.
All right, I think both points have been made. Appreciate it. Professor Painter, Ken Cuccinelli, always good to have you both on. Thank you. Just ahead, what we're learning about the investigation President Trump has been calling for again and again of the Clinton Foundation. The question, is it justified, or is it, as some critics say, diversion from questions about Russia? More on all of this ahead.
Have you checked the pancake?
Pancakes.
And what about the pancake?
Pancakes and pancakes.
And the pancakes?
Yeah, we're pancakes, sir.
Well, that sounds flippin' pancakes to me.
Yes, it does.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are cleared for pancakes. They're $3.99, all you can eat for a limited time.
Perfect.
$3.99, all you can eat pancakes, pancakes, pancakes at IHOP.
You know what they say about the early bird? He gets the best deal on the perfect hotel by using TripAdvisor. That's because TripAdvisor lets you start your trip on the right foot by comparing prices from over 200 booking sites to find the right hotel for you at the lowest price, saving you up to 30%. You'll be bathing in savings. TripAdvisor. Check the latest reviews and lowest prices.
I saw the simple box. Inside it, the most comfortable bed imaginable. Engineered by an award-winning team, on the Casper, life is but a dream.
Try it today at Casper.com.
You won't see these folks at the post office. They have businesses to run. They have passions to pursue. How do they avoid trips to the post office? Stamps.com. Mail letters, ship packages, all the services of the post office right on your computer. Get a 4-week trial plus $100 in extras, including postage and a digital scale. Go to stamps.com/TV and never go to the post office again.
We've been talking about arm twisting on Jeff Sessions, recusing himself, and other White House interactions with the Russia investigation, whether they add up to interference or even obstruction of justice. Here with us tonight is Philip Bump, Carl Bernstein, Tara Setmayer, Jack Kingston, Paris Denard, and Maria Cardona. Jack, I mean, actually, Philip, let's start with you. This new reporting that it wasn't just Don McGahn trying to basically arm twist or pressure Jeff Sessions, that there were 2 other high-ranking senior White House officials involved in that. Does that raise the stakes in this? Because, I mean, then it seems like everybody would have to have their stories all on the same page in any kind of interviews about it.
Right. I mean, I think what this does is it reinforces the way that Donald Trump was approaching control of Jeff Sessions and more broadly control of his administration. We saw, for example, when he was trying to put pressure on Jim Comey, the former FBI director, he used all sorts of different people who he tried to have twist Comey's arm to do what he wanted in terms of allegedly, turning down the heat on Michael Flynn, his former national security advisor. He had, for example, Dan Coates allegedly was asked to do something with Comey as well. So we've seen repeated instances in which Donald Trump has used multiple people to try and get what he wants. And that's fundamentally what the question is here. Yes, there is this broader question, this broader criminal question of obstruction of justice. But what we're seeing is a president who is used to getting his way, who came from the private sector where he's a CEO and sort of, acted by edict, who now comes into the presidency and tries to do the same sort of thing. And I think that fundamentally is what these additional sources reveal, that yes, once again, this isn't just him saying, hey, McGahn, go and talk to Sessions, try and keep him from recusing. It is Donald Trump using every tool in his arsenal to try and make something happen, which was probably inappropriate.
And according to the Wolf Book, wants his attorney general to act like his lawyer Roy Cohn did in the private sector.
Donald Trump, more than anything else in his presidency, has wanted this investigation to go away, and he has shown a willingness to do anything to make it go away. And that indeed is consistent with his years as Roy Cohn as his lawyer. What Roy Cohn did in the years that he was his mentor and the president's lawyer enabled Donald Trump to conduct a business that was constantly evading the law. That's really the hallmark and the consistency of the Trump operation. Evasion of legal and normal protocols. The number of lawsuits filed against Donald Trump. The amount of litigation initiated by Trump and Roy Cohn to shut people up. This was not your normal business operation. We are now seeing it transferred to the White House. And now, as Philip has suggested, Donald Trump thinks he can operate with the same kind of impunity and evade the law once again. And what is frustrating him, and it's clear from Michael Wolff's book as well, and from what Steve Bannon has told us through so many of these passages, is his outrage that he is subject to the law and to protocols that are inherent in the presidency and common decency in government. And he will not go along with them. And back to this question about Sessions' recusal. Sessions was head of the national security portfolio for the Trump campaign. And as we now know, and certainly Sessions knew, he had these meetings with Russians. So if you did not recuse yourself, you might really have some serious consequences. Of course he recused himself.
And this was at a time when it was really the Wild West in the West Wing. There was really no control. Reince Priebus was pretty neutered from the beginning as chief of staff. You had Steve Bannon running around doing whatever he wanted, Jared Kushner doing whatever he wanted. It was pretty much a free-for-all. So to Carl's point, Donald Trump was not used to the restraints that are built into the presidency and the way things operate. So it surprises me not at all. It doesn't surprise me at all that he would ask for his Roy Cohn because of how instrumental Roy Cohn was in Donald Trump's life, the influence that he had. I mean, Trump is quoted saying more than once that Roy Cohn would brutalize people and that he was vicious to people on my behalf, and that Roy Cohn demanded ironclad loyalty, which is partially where Trump gets this from, this idea of loyalty, almost mafia-like in a way. And that is not how the presidency works in this country. So, you know, this is very consistent from the book and what's being reported with how Donald Trump has run his entire operation, run his entire life. And so why would it surprise anyone that he would change into anyone different? And it should scare people that he would want a Roy Cohn in the White House with him, considering how illegal a lot of stuff
I'd have to say it would disappoint me if he did not try to keep his attorney general in the game on a very important matter. And as he said, Robert Kennedy, no, you want, that's well, why. Robert, he cited Robert Kennedy, he cited Eric Holder, who was the only cabinet in history who got accused, actually was guilty of contempt of Congress, which
we as Republicans
which by definition is obstruction, by the way.
And we were critical of that, so now we're against Jeff Sessions doing the right thing?
If I'm the president, I want to have my AG fully in the game, operating on anything. And it's not necessary. See, one of the things I think you guys maybe
even if there's a conflict of interest.
Right. This is inconsistent.
Okay, but if I'm Donald Trump, I'm saying
Holder for what he did, but now we're all of a sudden going after Jeff Sessions for doing the right thing and recusing himself.
Where you're making an assumption is that Donald Trump heard from all the attorneys who said, no, he's got to recuse himself or it's obstruction. That did not take place. He was going to him and saying, don't get out of it. And you just heard two very distinguished lawyers who had a completely different read of this. I'm not a lawyer, but I work for a law firm, and I can tell you, if you get two of them in the elevator, you're going to have two opinions. And that's what happens. Some people believe that he had to recuse himself. But remember, the article,
to protect
the
him
article also said
to
hold out as long as you could. And, you know, in terms of Sessions meeting with Russians, I was on the military committee. I was on the foreign affairs committee. We met with foreign people all the time, foreign heads of state quite often, and ambassadors. And remember, Claire McCaskill said, I never met with one. And then, you know, find out 2 or 3 months earlier, she had actually tweeted about meeting with the Russian ambassador.
Jack, I didn't say there's anything wrong with meeting with Russians.
He just forgot to mention it during his nomination hearing.
All I said is it's relevant to the investigation. Let's find out where it goes.
Paris, where are you on this?
I think the first problem we have is that we're citing things in this book as fact. We're assuming that bipartisan across the board, even a lot of Democrats, even journalists have said that there are a lot of questions about the veracity of that book. And so to assume that everything that's said about what the president said as relates to the attorney general and all these things are fact is our first problem. The second problem that we have is that we're questioning the fact that loyalty is a problem. When has loyalty been a problem? When you look at any administration, I've happened to be one who worked in one for 4 years.
Vito Corleone wanted loyalty.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a problem.
Well, you know, dictators want loyalty.
We can talk about dictatorships, and we can talk about the mafia, or we can talk about the White House, which I worked in for 4 years. And
I can show you 435 members of Congress want loyalty and 100 members of the Senate.
Right, but the Attorney General's loyalty is not to Donald Trump, it's to the American.
That's correct.
That's the distinction. And I'll also point out that this Roy Cohn quote doesn't come from the book. It comes from New York Times reporting.
That's right.
That's what you want to tell me.
And I would say the New York Times has not been overly friendly.
Okay, then how about
but they've actually been more accurate than the White House on most things that have come out. So Maria, where are you?
The problem is that the truth hasn't been overly friendly to this administration because they don't believe in the truth, and that's exactly the image that is coming out. Whether you want to question every single thing that the author has said, Michael Wolff himself has said he has tapes. He has notes. He has proof. He stands behind it. We'll see where that goes. But to your point, this comes out also out of reporting from the New York Times and the Washington Post, and so many journalists that have been covering this administration for the last year. They all say that this book paints a very accurate image of what they have reported and what they have heard.
But given, like Paris, given what you know about Roy Cohn, a guy who ended up being disbarred, I think, for stealing funds from one of his clients, a guy who, you know, worked for McCarthy, I mean, who was a real thug in the legal profession, and I knew him as a kid. I knew an attorney who worked for him. Would it concern you if Donald Trump wanted Jeff Sessions to be like Roy Cohn for him?
I think you have to look at how the president looked at Roy Cohn. If he looked at him as somebody who was loyal to him and who was going to do everything he could to
he brutalized
good,
but he can look at a mass murderer as long as the mass murderer is nice to him. I mean, you still don't want a mass murderer by your side. I mean,
well listen. Let me tell you something about my mom. My mom, if I spit on the ground, my mother would say that's artwork. And so I could say I would want somebody like my mom to appreciate and to love me like that, because I may be wrong, but my mother will look at me and say, my son is right. And so I think what the president is doing is saying, I want people around me who understand me, who appreciate me, and will do their best to be loyal to me. And when you are loyal to
Paris, it sounds like you want enablers, because your mom is an enabler then if you're doing things wrong.
We're going to continue this.
And that's not what the Attorney General's role is.
Let's hold this thought. We'll continue this. Much more to talk about on this. We'll also hear from a senior senator on the Judiciary Committee about obstruction next.
We'll do motherhood.
You haven't seen the sun in like forever, so you search for a beach vacation. Sunny beaches, sandy beaches, big beaches, small beaches, until you're lost, searching for surfing dogs.
Public cafes and in co-working places. Sharing same Wi-Fi spots can lead to some really serious invasions. VPN gives me peace of mind when I use unsecured public networks.
Did you know that your internet service provider can see what websites you visit? And they can track your exact location? That's insane. Who'd like that kind of surveillance?
The concern that we have is that they can actually spy on our activities online and then sell that information to the highest bidder.
Including the information of our kids who basically live on the internet. I mean, they can track the exact location of where my kid is.
Yes, which is why we use VPN to protect all our family devices from such invasive surveillance.
Protect yourself. Get NordVPN for only $4 a month. Visit nordvpn.com/TV now.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
We're talking now about the president, the law, Roy Cohn, Don Corleone, spit on the ground, and artwork. On a serious note, here's what Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal, who serves on the Judiciary Committee, said about it just a few moments ago about obstruction of justice.
This excellent reporting certainly indicates a key element of an obstruction of justice case, which is corrupt intent. And what is building here, it may not have reached the threshold of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, is clearly an effort to shut down the investigation, to interfere with it by, in effect, telling Jeff Sessions he had to maintain control over it and stymie it if possible.
Back now with the panel. You know, one of the things that we talked about last night a little bit, and I think it bears repeating, and Jeff Toobin made this point, and John Dean and others, is that even if there is no underlying crime, even if there was no collusion or anything inappropriate that the Trump administration did vis-a-vis Russia or anywhere else, if there was an attempt to obstruct justice, even if the attempt wasn't successful, that in and of itself can be a crime.
And if everything was just hogwash and this was a hoax and made up, then why this behavior? This is what is inconsistent. This is what is baffling to so many people when you're looking at this. When you're completely innocent, this is not how you behave. So why was Trump so incensed about Jeff Sessions recusing himself rightfully from the situation? If there was nothing going on, why did he need someone to protect him? Protect him from what? Well, this is what makes it very, it strains credulity to think that everything was just, oh, everybody's making everything up and Donald Trump's just paranoid? I don't think so.
I disagree, and I do know the president. I don't know him well, but I've talked to him, and I've talked to him particularly about this, and he is outraged because he does believe he's innocent. I was involved in the campaign. I don't believe people like Kellyanne Conway would be stupid enough to break. I mean, I know her for many, many years.
But
these
Jack,
are ethical people. I mean, they're
if you're innocent, you don't act like you're guilty.
If you are innocent, Washington, D.C.
No. If you are innocent,
think about Ted Stevens.
If you are innocent,
being ruined by the FBI.
Right. If you are innocent,
one at a time, Maria.
If you are innocent, you would invite people in to say, "I have nothing to hide. Look at everything." You would want
That's what
you
Ted
to
Stevens
be clear.
did, and they ruined
you would
him.
Want
Joe
to be
McDade,
clear.
the same thing. FBI raided Congressman Kurt Weldon's office. Ruined his reputation, later gave him a clean bill of health, but you know, the old expression in Washington, when do I get my reputation back? So
but
I got to tell you,
Donald Trump has gone overboard to try to keep things from coming out,
and look at everything
try
we're
to say
learning
that he
about
needs
Andrew
protection.
McCabe and Andrew Wiseman and James Quarles and Julie Rhee and all their partisanship and Peter Strzok. And you ask why politicians are paranoid. Look at the FBI.
None of that has changed. None of that has changed the Mueller investigation.
Well,
Well,
you know what? I think
he fired some of those people.
Tara, your former boss came out today on CNN in a very strong way, talking to Anna Cabrera, in
an embarrassing interview, in my opinion. I was very upset with how he handled himself on air today. I would say that. It's not how he behaved when I worked for him.
Well, maybe you should still work for him. But at the end of the day, the points that he made were valid. The points that he made talked about the scope that happens when you have a special prosecutor, and why he's upset, and many Republican congressmen are upset at the fact that the Attorney General recused himself, because now what you have Mueller doing is opening up. Did he do this? Let's narrow the scope to what it's supposed to be about. Was there meddling? Was there meddling?
Because Trump fired James Comey.
And if there was, let's look at the Clintons. If there was, let's ask Mueller.
Why do you have
people that you have employed who were in fact donors to the Clinton campaign, who were in fact
That was the standard. No one would ever be able to do anything to anybody else.
Let's have him recuse himself.
Carl, go ahead.
Let's have him recuse himself, but you won't do it because you like where this is going. It's an open net.
Carl,
go ahead.
Really quickly, Paris, the scope of Mueller's investigation included obstruction of justice because of the way James Comey was fired.
He
brought it up. Yes, it was. So
can we get back on the ground?
Carl, we haven't heard from Carl.
Try to get back on the ground.
Let
me say a couple words.
I do want to make a point.
A couple words here. That we have a legitimate investigation that needs to run its course. If there is anything untoward about what Mueller has done, about what Christopher Wray has done, about what James Comey has done, there is plenty of time after this investigation runs its course to have every kind of inquiry to find out what those violations were. This is the best shot that we have at justice and democracy working in a terrible, terrible moment in which our intelligence agencies have told us that we were violated by a foreign power in our most democratic process, our election. And they are acting to have an honest investigation, and the Trump White House and the Trump partisans, and I'm going to say including what sounds to be yourselves, are trying to demean, undermine, discredit every attempt to have a decent investigation.
Carl,
and incidentally, let me finish.
Let me own my partisanship.
I will, but let me finish. You are right about Ted Stevens. The Ted Stevens case was an abomination. The FBI in the McCarthy era was an abomination.
Jack, I'm going to let you respond, but we got to take a break. I promise Jack is going to respond.
An attempt to find out what happened and why in the world you two Republicans would not say what Howard Baker said in Watergate. What did the president know? And when did he know it?
Jack's going to respond. I lost control. Jack's going to respond. We're going to take a quick break. Also coming up, the author of Fire and Fury spoke out today. More on that ahead.
They came out of nowhere, sir.
Carrie, as a recruiter, you've redefined success at this company. With Paycor, you brought us better processes and a smarter way to hire. And looking around, I guess it worked. So thank you for improving the lives of each person you've hired, including me.
May I please have a double shot half almond milk latte with 2 half pumps of caramel? Oh, in the foam, can you put a heart?
A broken one.
How'd you know?
If you can get picky with your coffee, why not get picky with your TV?
Introducing a la carte TV, only from Sling. Start at $20 a month, then pick your personal channel lineup and save.
Are you new here?
No.
Go to slingtv.com and start watching 7 days free.
Since everything's included at Beaches and Grill in Jamaica, you can do all the things you love with the ones you love. Because the best thing you can give your family on vacation is you.
Right, my generation. Yeah, we're all about a good time. Yeah, we're all about a good life. You won't believe until you see. This is gonna be a fun ride. Yeah, we're all about
Beaches all-inclusive resorts, where you can feel like family again. Call 1-800-BEACHES and save up to 65%.
Get the facts first.
I can't trust you on any level when I think you're going to BS me. It matters who runs. It matters who fights the fight.
Of course it matters. Get to the truth.
Do you have the proof?
Yes.
Will you provide it?
Yes.
Can I have it?
No.
Why? If the Democrats weren't so obsessed with trying to impeach the president, you might be getting more things done on the governing side.
Beyond the spin.
Your own logic doesn't work here.
Holding their feet to the fire. Cuomo Prime Time starts Tuesday at 9, only on CNN.
Are the credit cards in your wallet actually the best ones for you? At NerdWallet, we sort through over 1,200 credit cards to find the top cards for balance transfer, travel, earning rewards, and...
I am a soldier of the People's Army.
Before the break, Carl Bernstein called the Mueller investigation our best shot at finding out what really happened in the campaign with respect to Russia and what happened later with respect to possible obstruction of justice. Carl was also speaking out against efforts to undermine the probe. Jack Kingston wanted to respond. The floor is yours.
Carl, I got my time. I'm feeling good about this. Let me just say, from a Republican standpoint, I believe there are very, very valid concerns about the team that Mueller has put together. If Peter Strzok was on a Democrat team, I think he would have the same concern. I mean, we can all say, yeah, no, this is a squeaky clean guy, but I don't believe that. I think Andrew Weissman is a suspect. Andrew McCabe's wife, who's received hundreds of thousands of dollars because of Clinton donations or efforts, I think those are all concerns. So if we really are only concerned about the truth, let's make sure we have the best team investigating it. But I also want to make this point. The reason why Congress, on a bipartisan basis, let the special prosecutor law lapse is because it does become a runaway train. Who would have thought that Ken Starr, investigating real estate deals in Arkansas, would find his way to a 24-year-old intern with a blue dress, and then it was all about perjury? And I actually talked to Henry Hyde about it at the time. I said, you know, this is really disappointing that after millions of dollars, this is where we end up. And so,
did you vote for impeachment?
I did vote for impeachment,
okay.
and because it was about perjury. That was it was a question of perjury.
Why didn't you bring up the same concerns then? If you're going to be consistent about that.
I did do it. That's what I'm saying.
But then not
all right.
vote for it.
We haven't heard from Philip for a while. Philip.
Sure. So I want to make 2 points. I appreciate that, sir. I want to make 2 points. The first is that the playbook that we have seen essentially since Donald Trump started running for president is to find little nitpicky things to use to try and undermine your opponents. And I agree with Carl that that's what this appears to be. There's no indication at this point that Mueller's investigation has been affected by any sort of partisanship. Peter Strzok was fired 2 months into the thing because of these text messages that emerged. There's simply no evidence for that. But I understand why Trump allies want to seize upon that. I do want to go back to something Tara said, though, which is why would Donald Trump object so strenuously to this if he were innocent? And there is a reason that we know of, which is that he is extremely insecure about what happened in November 2016. He believes that he is the target of people who think he's not a legitimate president. He knows he lost the popular vote, so he makes up this total nonsense about voter fraud. And he's trying to do everything in his power to assert, I won. It was through my own excellence as a candidate that I was able to be elected president. And he sees the Russia investigation legitimately as an attempt to say, no, actually, Russia helped you do it. That's why I think he may very well be innocent here. But I think that he's focused so much on it because he doesn't want people to say, hey, Russia's...
I'm sorry, what did you say about the president's innocent? You said what?
Well, I believe that we investigate and we look into these things.
You said you believe very well that he may be innocent. And I think the article that you did today about the economy that was very, very good under his administration was also very, very good. But I would say this. If this investigation is going to be fair, and as a Republican, we want it to be fair, but let's be honest about what this investigation is and is not. It is not focused on getting at the truth about Russia meddling before the election of Donald Trump. Because if we're going to be honest, we know that this precedes the Trump election. The Obama administration knew about Russia trying to and actually influence the election.
And they opened an investigation.
And so if this investigation is going to be truthful, let's go back and look at all of everything, not just simply focus on President Trump. And that is why Republicans get so incensed about it, because you can see the stuff that
literally just said it should be narrow, though. You want it to be broad when it's involving Hillary Clinton and narrow when it's involving Jared Kushner.
No, be very clear. I said it is to be narrowly focused on Russia meddling in the election.
Except for Trump has shown zero interest in finding out the truth even about that, because he has yet to admit that that happened.
No, President Obama showed
there are two things that I wanted to make. 2 points. Jeff Sessions, I went back to look at the statement that he made when he recused himself. And he talks about how he had several conversations with Department of Justice counsel. And I'm glad he had those conversations and that he didn't listen to the White House counsel and the other two people that Trump sent, because and I'm not a Jeff Sessions fan, he did the right thing in recusing himself. And he talks about how during his nomination hearings, because of the fact that it came out that he met with the Russians, that he told the Congress that he would recuse himself if anything came up where his impartiality was questioned. Of course his impartiality would be questioned on anything having to do with Russia. That's my first point. The second point is on Trump's red line and everybody talking about how Mueller could be a runaway investigator if he goes into his finances.
Which he is.
His finances are absolutely relevant here. The issue is that we have never seen his taxes, and he could absolutely be incredibly beholden financially to the Russians.
All right, we're going to have more with the panel ahead. We're going to get their take on word today that the feds are investigating the Clinton Foundation over whether donors were promised any favors or access to Hillary Clinton while she was Secretary of State. I know Jack Kingston doesn't want to talk about this, but we're going to have to talk about it. We'll be right back.
It's time for Sleep Number's lowest prices of the season on the only bed that adjusts on both sides to your ideal comfort. Your Sleep Number setting. And snoring? Does your bed do that? It's the lowest prices of the season on the Queen C4 mattress with adjustable comfort on both sides. Now $11.99, save $400. End soon. Visit sleepnumber.com for a store near you.
Well, it's earnings season once again.
Yeah, a lot of tech companies are reporting today.
And? How's it looking?
I don't know. There's so many opinions out there, it's hard to make sense of it all.
Well, Victor, do you have something for him?
Check this out. TD Ameritrade aggregates thousands of earnings estimates into a single data point. Well, you can keep your eyes on the big picture.
Huh.
Feel better?
Much better.
Yeah, me too. Well, you really did a number on this thing.
Sorry about that.
That's right, I got a box of them.
Thousands of opinions, one estimate. The earnings tool from TD Ameritrade.
What's better than winning $5,000 a week for life? How about if those checks would keep on coming to your family even decades after you're gone? It's the Publishers Clearinghouse $5,000 a week forever prize. Win and you get $5,000 a week for your life. Then after that, someone you choose gets $5,000 a week for their life. Wouldn't it be great to leave a legacy for your family? Watch your mail or go to PCH.com and enter. February 23rd, you could win $5,000 a week forever.
You won't see these folks at the post office. They have businesses to run. They have passions to pursue. How do they avoid trips to the post office? Stamps.com. Mail letters, ship packages, all the services of the post office right on your computer. Get a 4-week trial plus $100 in extras, including postage and a digital scale. Go to stamps.com/TV and never go to the post office again.
When it comes to travel, I sweat the details. Late checkout, down alternative pillows, and of course, price. TripAdvisor helps you book a hotel without breaking a sweat. Because we now instantly search over 200 booking sites to find you the lowest price on the hotel you want. Don't sweat your booking. TripAdvisor, the latest reviews, the lowest prices.
Closed captioning brought to you by OnlyMeso.com.
We offer a free book on mesothelioma. Call for the free book and receive so much more. Call 1-800-831-3700.
A U.S. official tells CNN federal authorities are actively investigating the Clinton Foundation, looking into whether donors to the charity were promised policy favors or special access to Hillary Clinton while she was Secretary of State. This has been brewing for years. It's unclear what, if any, new evidence led to the current investigation. The official says it's being led by an FBI field office in Arkansas. Back now with the panel. Maria, I mean, as a Democrat and former advisor to Secretary Clinton, what do you see?
I agree with what Nick Merrill said today. It's a total sham. And I think that this is something that we all could have predicted. We saw this coming miles away. And frankly, probably in Jeff Sessions' attempt to prove his loyalty, this is something that he did to prove his loyalty.
A total sham.
This is something, yes, absolutely,
Paris,
a total sham.
how do you see?
This is something that has been investigated before, and they're going to come up with nothing.
I wish I could just take everything you said about the President Trump and that investigation in Russia and just flip it and talk about Secretary Clinton, because it would just be the same thing. You can't use your same talking points on President Trump on Secretary Clinton, but you won't do that because you're just stuck in your partisan hackness.
I'm using talking points that are actually the truth when it comes to President Trump.
No, you're using fire and fury talking points. It's all false. But at the end of the day, what we know is that
not according to other reporters.
Other reporters, Maggie Haberman actually said this thing was very treads on dishonesty. A lot of Democrat reporters,
Maggie Haberman and a lot of other reporters have said that the total image that Fire and Fury states or presents is very accurate.
The total image. That book is a bunch of hogwash.
I think
Secretary Clinton's hogwash too, and you know it.
I think we need to know a lot more about the circumstances under which this investigation was opened. It's possible that, as you say, it was nefariously opened. It's also possible, and we need to find out, that perhaps somebody came in with some kind of evidence that's worth investigating. We need to find out. Let's not prejudge. We ought to be in the business of getting the facts, and we have very few facts, but certainly there is something about Donald Trump at this moment calling for crooked Hillary, to be locked up, and his Justice Department initiating this apparent investigation.
That has nothing to do with it.
We don't know.
No,
I just want to say that's exactly right.
Totally agree with you.
The issue at the moment, we absolutely do need to know more about the investigation, but it is impossible to remove from this the stink of Donald Trump having consistently called for this to happen, with a total lack of any additional evidence, right? I mean, Donald Trump watched Fox and Friends and suddenly decided that Hillary Clinton should go to jail, right? This has happened over the course of a year and a half. We don't know. We don't know why this happened. We don't know why this investigation began again. And with Donald Trump having said all these things, he is prejudiced, or should have prejudiced.
Hold on. Jack, you're actually going to thank me for this. So there is a there with the Clinton Foundation. This has been something that has plagued them for several years. Even the New York Times back in 2015 did a rather extensive story about Uranium One and the donations to the Clinton Foundation and some questionable activities there, all the way back to with Bill Clinton getting a $500,000 speech from a Russian bank that was investing in the Uranium One deal, and people with Rosatom and the Russians wanting to get this uranium. There was a lot going on there, and the Clinton and there was over $130 million worth of donations from people involved with, from Frank Giustra, $31 million from him. That was the guy who was the head of Uranium One, who was friends with the Clintons, gave $31 million, and then another $100 million.
Debunked.
No, it's not. It is not completely debunked.
The
timing was, it started in 2005 through 2007 when they thought that Hillary Clinton was going to run for president in 2008, which she did, and it carried on from there. He left in 2007, that's correct, but the Clinton Foundation, the various activities have been going on long before just now. So what made it relevant now is the fact that the Uranium One deal was approved in 2010 under the Obama administration, which was questionable at the time because the FBI had uncovered a Russian bribery scheme within the nuclear energy sector that they did not tell the members of the CFIUS group that has to approve those foreign investments. So people didn't really know, and they wonder why didn't anybody say anything? Because there was the Russian reset going on. So there was a lot of things where the Clintons were involved in this.
That approval, she
was on the board.
Part of it.
Okay, Jack, we haven't heard from you.
They have a lot of. They had a lot of tentacles with foreign governments and the Russians.
I do know there were people on this panel who said, if you're innocent, why not? Why worry about it? Why be defensive about it?
Are we trying to shut it down? They haven't said that they should shut it down. They just said it's a sham.
Something out though that is important. The Department of Justice backed off this investigation in 2016, and I think they made a good decision. I frankly wish James Comey would have followed their decision as well on potential violation of the Hatch Act. But at that time, they said to the FBI, you can continue this particularly if something new comes up. So it is a continuation of an investigation, which actually started under Obama. Now, we don't know what the new evidence is or what triggered that, and so I do agree with you that we need to find out, well, what made it happen. I think Tara has raised some points that have never been settled, but there probably are other things. There's that Algerian donation that was never reported, even though it was not supposed to be allowed, and it was
they
never
fessed up
reported.
to that. They explained
fessed
that
up
after
once
they
it was
found
You're
once it
awfully
was
defensive. You're awfully defensive for something that is so.
They fessed
No,
up
you're
once they
very,
were
very
caught.
defensive.
I'm
You know,
just
we're
talking
in
about
the
the
there's a there there. We know there's a there.
Let me throw out one question, though, that I have always, and I was on the Foreign Affairs Committee where we did foreign aid. I often heard during 2016 how important the Clinton Foundation was for the health of the world. And my question would be, if it was such a great foundation, why is it unable to function now that she's not Secretary of State?
Or why'd they have to shut it down?
Why'd they have to shut it down? I mean,
why'd they have to refile their 990? Because they forgot about all these foreign donations. They forgot about them.
There was a big social component. I mean, look, I think they did fantastic work on HIV/AIDS in Africa.
Absolutely.
But there was a big social component to getting to hang, for a lot of these donors, getting to hang out with Bill Clinton and schmooze and there was that big event in New York.
Let's talk about presidential libraries, and presidential foundations, which are a big problem because people give money to them because they want to be around and have influence.
But there has
and something ought to be done about them.
There's something very specific about has ever been proven between the donations and any policy.
That's why there's an investigation.
Never been up next, new insight on the Russian woman who did all the talking at the Trump Tower meeting that Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort attended during the presidential campaign. It's part of a new CNN special report. It's fascinating, airing at the top of the hour. We're going to have a preview of that. We'll talk to Pam Brown when we continue.
You haven't seen the sun in like forever, so you search for a beach vacation. Sunny beaches, sandy beaches, big beaches, small beaches, until you're lost, searching for surfing dogs. But then you find VRBO, and they search millions of homes to find you the perfect beach house, where you all find your own rooms and a grill bigger than your kitchen back home. And you find that watching the love of your life teach the kids how to dive warms your heart even more than the sun. From beach houses to cabins to condos, find homes that match you.
Beam hog. Champion.
May I please have a double shot half almond milk latte with 2 half pumps of caramel? But you don't have to do.
If you can get picky with your coffee, why not get picky with your TV?
Get a la carte TV only from Sling. Start at $20, then pick your personal channel lineup.
Get the facts first.
It matters who wrote wrong.
Get to the truth.
Do you have the proof?
Yes.
Can I have it?
No. Beyond the spin.
Your own logic doesn't work here.
Holding their feet to the fire. Cuomo Prime Time starts Tuesday at 9.
Breaking news tonight, it is a landmark in the Russia investigation.
The very latest bombshell
about the Trump administration's ties to Moscow.
A CNN special report inside the Trump-Russia investigation. The blockbuster developments, the secret meetings, the shocking dismissal, the guilty pleas, the big questions that still remain.
For our story, we will stick to the facts.
CNN special report, the Trump-Russia investigation, next.
With all of the data breaches happening these days, it's more important than ever to stay on top of your credit. Wallet Hub cuts through the clutter and makes it easy. It shows you important changes so that you can stop errors, identity theft, and fraud in its tracks. So go to wallethub.com and sign up for free. You'll see your credit timeline, follow it, confirm, or reject actions, and stay on top of your credit. It's that easy. So what are you waiting for? Go to wallethub.com and sign up for free.
NerdWallet.com knows that it can be hard to know. Sometimes options seem similar. And you don't want to wing it. But when it comes to credit cards, you can breathe easy. NerdWallet has all the info you need in one place to help you find the lowest rate, most cash back, or sweetest perks. Nothing beats knowing. Find your next card today at NerdWallet.com.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
What a week it's been in Washington. Every day it seems there are new developments in the Russia investigation. To help you stay on top of it, I hope you're going to join CNN's Pamela Brown for a special report that begins in just a few minutes. At the top of the hour, Pamela strings together many of the threads. Here's one key moment from tonight's report as CNN began to drill down on now infamous